Welcome to Easygoing Yoga. We are going to do a half-hour practice, roughly. And if you'd like, I have just my yoga mat out. You don't need anything more than that. Maybe a blanket later when we come to the floor. But otherwise, if you just have a nice space, you could be working on a rug, blanket thrown down, or if you have a yoga mat, that's great. We're just going to start with 10 churning. So it's just a way to begin opening up the joints, loosening things up. And I always suggest people just notice what time of day, where your energy level is when you begin, kind of how things are feeling, shifting the weight from side to side, letting the arms swing, looking over the shoulder you're turning toward if that's skillful. And one of the reasons for noticing your energy is then just to adapt the practice. If this is morning for you, you might want to be a little bit more like rigorous to wake yourself up. If it's noontime, to shake off the morning. If it's the afternoon, maybe a little bit softer and letting it be an unwinding, right? Reaching up with the right arm. As you breathe in, exhale, release the arm, bending the knees. Inhaling up. Exhale, release. Inhaling up. Exhale, release. One more time. And then taking a beat between the two sides, just noticing what's happened in that right side. And then we'll take it on the left, breathing in and out. Exhale, release. Opening the side body, beginning to notice your breath, and beginning to see if you can link your breath with the movement. So that's why I might say inhaling up, exhale, release. And then other times it's a less specific breath cue, but just paying attention, making sure you're not holding your breath because you're concentrating. Gently circling the hips one way and the other. And then if you like, you could take a little figure of eight, almost like a salsa in the hips, and then reversing that, which might feel awkward. It's not a very natural thing to do, but it can be nice, just loosening up, undulating some of the tissue around the hips, abdomen, pelvic floor, until you can bring your feet and knees together and taking gentle circles. Just barely moving outside the natural range of motion for the knees, and then taking it the other way. And watching the breath. There's no particular. Here we're going to start lifting the heel off the floor, spreading the toes as wide as you can. If it feels skillful, you might take the weight up and over, right? And that can begin to let us check in with our balance, letting your eyes and chin come to a level eyesight, so your head's not hanging down and forward. Sometimes we tend to watch our feet and then we leave our heads there, and that can kind of just pull the whole shape of us forward. So it's a nice chance to just look up, look out, letting the head rest on the spine. And then letting both feet come down, letting the toes lift off the floor, inviting the toes up, spreading them as wide as you can. I find sometimes people like to spread their fingers here too. This can be a nice stretch for all the digits. Lifting and lowering. So with the toes spread wide, reaching the fingers wide, we're going to hinge at the elbow and then release the arms, let them swing. And with that, I take a little bob in my knees, like I'm catching and then sending the load back up. So from the side, this gives us a chance also to practice feeling the hinge at the top of your thigh, where the pelvic bowl rests, letting your tailbone reach back. Sometimes it's really nice just to let the breath go with a sigh here. Again, tuning into the part of your day where you're at. Do you need to let stuff go? Do you need to rev yourself up? And then circling the elbows, getting the shoulder blades gliding on the back body, maybe taking it one and then the other, reversing direction. Good. And then bringing both elbows forward, up, opening wide and down. We're going to reach back, palms face the floor, rolling up to gentle fist, pulling back, spreading wide, up to gentle fist, back and forth. Good. And then bringing your hands up, circling the wrists, circling the other way. And then I like to just encourage people to take a moment here. Just let the arms undulate and maybe take a couple of stretches that feel nice to you in this moment, right? Might be interlacing the fingers, pulling them back. We're going to come back together here in a moment for the practice, but sometimes it's just really nice to notice, like, oh yeah, that feels good. I should remember to do that, right? Coming onto both feet, parallel. This is mountain pose, and it can be helpful just to take a moment, let your weight shift forward over the balls of your feet. Notice how that's different than coming back into the heels, maybe rocking right to left as well, and noticing if you have a tendency to spend more time over one foot than the other. And if that's the case, this becomes just a nice opportunity to gently encourage a little bit of balance back into the body, even if that balance feels a little awkward because you're used to something else, right? Remembering our bodies, our muscles have these memories. So gently encouraging a quality of centeredness, a sense of power, of strength. And we're rooting down into the lower half, feeling the soles of the feet rooting down, the energy rising up. So even as we're grounding through the feet, and this can be really nice to do in bare feet outside if you have the chance, right? But even as you're rooting down, letting the energy begin to rise up from the ground, feeling your ankles, knees, hips, pelvis, trunk, rib cage, spine, shoulders, arms, neck, and head, letting that all stack. So there's a quality of energy rising up through the whole body. And when I say stack, I don't necessarily mean straight, right? There's plenty of curvature. There's lots of primary and secondary curves rolling up the back body. So you don't have to make yourself feel straight. It's more about generating that internal sensation of power and strength rising from beneath and letting it release out through the crown of the head, the energetic end of the spine. From there, we're going to let the arms begin to move into salutation. And that just means they flow up, the palms come together overhead, and they descend and separate at the bottom. Some of you may find that it's lovely to close your eyes doing this so that you get a chance to really feel the movement from the inside. However, that can mess with our balance, right? If we have a feeling of dizziness or like we're going to topple over, if we close our eyes, then by all means, let them stay open with a soft gaze. And I'm going to reverse this pattern because I like to encourage people to notice what feels better in their shoulder girdle. So perhaps coming up the center. Palms turn, rising, opening wide. You can even, I'm going to approach just so you can see this, you can even bring the back of your hands together. Bring them up, flow through, and then let them rise. So it's, again, a place for a little improvisation with the idea being that maybe some of these gestures just help to relax you, help to generate a little bit of movement, release tension, so that they don't always have to come formally in a practice from beginning to end, but that you might integrate them into your day. And take one more. Open wide and down, pausing at the bottom, fingertips reaching for the floor, palms face forward if that's skillful, palms face your thighs if you prefer. Checking in with the shoulder girdle. We're going to move into something called chair flow. So now the arms are going to come up 90 degrees in front, breathing in. Exhale, as if you were sitting back in your chair, breathing out. Inhale, lengthen the legs, the trunk rises with that gesture, palms pressed to the thighs. Exhale, return to seated, letting the arms come forward as a counterbalance. Inhale, pressing into the soles of your feet, the arms reach up as we come to vertical, opening wide and down. Let's take that again. Inhale, exhale, sitting back, letting your head and neck stay in relationship to your shoulders. So I think of my shoulders sort of being like the earrings off the lobes, right? So I'm keeping that quality of firmness through the trunk as I move. Let's do that one more time, and I'm just going to turn and face this other way so you get to see another angle. Breathing in, sitting back, breathing out. Breathing in, the legs lengthen, the trunk rises. Exhale, sitting back, reaching forward. Inhale, reaching tall. This time, if you like, you might rise up onto the balls of the feet. Letting the fingertips lift even higher and then lowering down, arms flow down. And roll it out, wiggle it out, shake it out. I like to wiggle, shake, and roll in between these more linear postures, just a nice chance for our connective tissue to kind of let go and likes to undulate. Okay, we are going to take a crane to crescent. I'm going to turn my back to you, not to be rude, but so that you can see the pattern, and periodically I'll turn from side to side so you can see additional shapes. We're starting in our mountain, but now we're going to start deliberately shifting the weight from right to left. So a little soft bend, straighten. I'm using the other foot just to touch so I keep a sense of where I am. And then as I feel confident, I'm going to lift that foot up off the floor. And then that's going to become a knee bend up in front. So as I lift, and see if you can leave your trunk, the spine, and the supporting leg in a kind of neutral mountain alignment as the other leg flows. And that threw my balance off. Good. I'm going to add arms. So here we have our crane pose, arms flowing. Letting the arms provide a little bit more balance, letting the shoulders begin to warm up. And then I'm going to step my right foot back in what we call crescent lunge. That back heel may or may not touch the floor. It's a nice chance to stretch the back of your leg, the calf, the arms away from the feet, and then we'll step over to the other side. So this is crane to crescent or dancing crane, back and forth. So I've slowed us down a little bit here just to benefit from the stretch. If you wanted more tempo, a faster tempo, you're welcome to move faster. Controlling this can be quite a workout. And we're going to take it once more each side, back and forth. Getting the upper half and the lower half of the body working together. And now back to crane by itself. So we're going to go back the way we came. And you might even notice my breath and heart rate, and tell by my voice beginning to quicken. You may be feeling some of the same. I'm going to let my arms come down and begin to wind that heart rate back down to quiet. All right, so we can bring it up and then gently invite it back down. watching the breath, being deliberate, making sure you're not holding your breath, and finally coming back to a still mountain pose. Pausing for a moment. Good. And let it go. We are going to take Warrior 2 flow. So this is just flow means we're just linking a few movements together. I'll explain them. So stepping to the front of whatever you're working on. If you're on a yoga mat, great. If you're on a blanket, that's fine. I'm on a circle, so I come to the edge with room behind me. I'm going to let my arms float up just as we did earlier from mountain pose, bringing the hands to the heart center with a gentle bow. Reaching back up, I'm going to open my arms, soften my knees, and step my right leg back. And from the front, it looks like this. I have my back leg in the right lane, my front leg in the left lane. Back toes are open a little bit. Arms coming up to Warrior 1. And then I'm going to pivot, opening out to Warrior 2. Pausing here. So Warrior 2, the back foot has turned perpendicular to the front foot. The front knee is bent. The trunk is over the pelvic bowl. The arms extending, looking down that front arm. And breathing in and out a couple of times. And you might find it helpful to think of your feet having magnets in them that are seeking each other. So that helps to create or cultivate a sense of lift through the legs. I'm going to lengthen the front knee now and give the shoulders a rest for a moment. And then we're going to slide into extended side angle where the front knee bends. You might place your palm. You might place your forearm if you have the range of motion to dip, letting that front hip drop and the back arm come up alongside. Maybe it's by your cheek, maybe it's by your ear, pressing that front arm into the thigh and that front thigh pressing up into the arm, creating a nice energetic lift or isometric contraction. And then reaching those fingertips away from the back outer blade. Breathing in and out here. And then I'm going to let that top arm lift me up. Breathing in. Windmill the arms. So let the arms change. Back fingertips touch. Front fingertips rise. Looking up past that top armpit. And maybe now we'll bend into that front knee. Checking in with your low back. If it feels comfortable in your low back, great. If that feels pinchy, you might keep your front knee long. And breathe. And then let's bring the arms back to Warrior 2. Arms float down. I'm going to bring my hands to my hips here just to walk that back foot in a little bit closer. Heel toeing. And step to the front of the mat. And we'll take all that on the second side. So I'm just going to change to step back with the left so you can see me. Inhaling, arms up. Exhaling, arms, hands to the heart center, gentle bow. Reaching back up. Opening the arms, softening the knees, that left foot. It can also slide back, step or slide back. Arms rise to Warrior 1. This is our transition pose. And then pivoting that back heel in, maybe stepping further back, maybe not. Let it be comfortable. Looking down that front arm to Warrior 2. Breath in, breath out. Lift in the legs. Magnets drawing the front heel to the back arch to the front heel. We're going to straighten that front knee, let the arms rest. Front knee bends, front palm or forearm comes down, hip drops, back arm comes up into extended side angle. Breathing from the fingertips down to that back outer blade. Feeling your pinky toe and outer edge. Letting the top arm lift you up. Releasing the front arm, windmill. Long front body looking up and out. Flowing back to warrior two, looking down the front arm. Hands to the hips. Heel toe that back foot in. And stepping forward, mountain pose. And shake it out, wiggle it out, or roll it out. Good. Let's do this. We're going to take one more balance posture, tree pose. And I recommend, if you want to touch, in fact, a really lovely way to practice tree pose would be to come to a wall. I have my feet a couple of inches out, so I have room for my backside. And then I'm going to lift the right heel, pivot that knee open. And you could start here, just letting the foot rest. Ball of the right foot is on the floor, heel's on the top of my other foot. If that were comfortable, you could progress to sole of the foot on the inside of your calf muscle. You could also bring it up higher and actually reach down and grab. So now I actually have the heel pressing into my fleshy inner thigh. And you may find that becomes a comfortable position. And then with the wall at my back, it becomes about feeling into the shape of the pose. Perhaps even with the support, I could close my eyes and once more return to that internal sense of my body in space, that feeling sense of letting the shoulders be broad. Maybe you interlace the fingers, take the arms this way. It's really up to you how you want to configure this. And we'll do a couple more breaths on this side. You could also stand behind a chair. The beauty of having a little bit of support in any kind of balance pose is it just gives the nervous system a chance to relax. So we're not worried about falling. We're simply in the pose. When you're ready, taking that leg down and changing sides. So I'll demonstrate in the center of the room now. Left heel on the sole of the foot. It's a beautiful place to begin. Arms rise. Your choice, if that feels steady, taking the foot to the calf. Maybe up a little higher. The one place you don't really want to jam your heel into is the knee joint, but you could quite happily cup the knee with the arch of the foot, right? That becomes an option. Or if you have this range of motion flexibility there, and it's really, let it be personal. Really let this become a personal practice. Where do you find that foot rests comfortably? Sometimes the invitation, once people get to a resting posture, is to then invite a little bit of instability, letting the arms as if they were the branches of a tree in a storm challenge your balance. And if you're trying to stay steady and watching me move, you might be challenged enough. Good. And then releasing. From here, we're going to come down to the floor. So shaking things out, wiggling things out again. I'm just going to shift the height of the machine so you can come down to the floor with me and bring this a little closer. So I'm going to come down. Sometimes I encourage people to put a blanket under their knees. I like it for myself. Just a little extra TLC for the body. It's nice. Coming on to hands and knees, I'm going to let my hips sink back towards my heels. Let the arms reach overhead in what we call child's pose. You might also want to stack your fists. This is a nice option for allowing the neck and head to relax without stressing the spine or cutting off the breath. Sometimes it feels like it's a lot to go that deeply. So finding a comfortable position for child's pose. You may also see it sometimes where people have their forehead down and their arms by their side. That's fine. I like this one. Breathing into the back ribs if you can. One more slow, steady breath. And then we're going to walk the hands forward, lower the body down, letting the front of the body have a moment in its length, letting the forehead rest on the back of your hands. Just taking a breath or two here. Depending on how your days go, this might actually feel like a bit of a back bend in the sense that the front of the body is getting straightened, lengthened by the nature of this posture. We're going to very gently turn to come onto our backs. You might reach one arm overhead and roll over right where you are. You may need to adjust, as I am. And we're going to take bridge pose. And I like to offer this as just a hip bridge. If you're familiar with yoga, you may have experience with extending the spine, but I like to keep this kind of soft. So we're going to take a breath in. Feet are on the floor, knees are bent. Press up into the feet, lifting the hips on the breath out, but here leaving your chest heavy. So there's no need to push into extension. We're just going to let the chest stay heavy, active in your legs, your glutes, the pelvic floor, the soles of the feet, maybe bending the elbows and giving a little bit of pressure to the elbows, back of the arms. And then when you're ready, rolling down, slow, steady. See if you can let one vertebrae down at a time, opening the arms wide. Let the knees fall to one side and your gaze fall in the opposite direction. Just as we began the practice, a gentle twist for the spine, taking it the other way. Knees fall, and please feel free to modify the height or distance your knees travel to make this comfortable for you. I'm going to go back and forth one more time. Knees to the right. I like to keep my top foot firmly planted and give a little push there in what some folks call half bridge. That's more comfortable to my low back. So I always encourage people to really do some research on twists on the floor to find the place that feels best for you. And then coming back to center. Let's let the thighs fall towards each other, walking your feet apart just a little bit, letting the arms be open and maybe closing the eyes for 3 breaths. Feeling the lungs expand. Feel free to blow out the breath or let the breath go with a gentle sigh. One more breath in. If you have more time to remain in a resting position, feel free to. If you have more time to keep moving, feel free. free to. If not, thank you for spending this half hour with me, filling your cup so that you can fill the cups of others.